Let me share.
I can do introductions, Jason, or do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, we should probably do that.
Okay.
I was about to jump right into it. Um, but yeah, hey everyone, I'm Jason. I work at TCM with Ange. I am also a penetration tester at TCM, so Ange and I work together quite a bit. Background, I kind of started out in security. I started out like in a SOC role. I went to college for cybersecurity. So I kind of had the degree experience, and that's kind of how I got into the industry. And through internships and stuff, I was able to land like an entry level role out of college. And then I kind of built my way into offensive security from there. So like I pivoted a few different companies. I worked at a voice over IP company. There I was just kind of like a security engineer. Did like a lot of pretty much like a jack of all trades. Like we would do everything from like incident response to bug bounty, and that's really where I like discovered that I love like offensive security. Just like owning the bug bounty program and seeing like what researchers would find, I thought was really cool. I was like, wow, I didn't know like any of this stuff was possible. So that's what kind of led me to want to get into the red team side of things. Um, and that so in order to get my foot in the door there, I just got like the OSCP like everyone was doing like years ago now. And that would like back then that kind of was once you had the OSCP, you could kind of get interviews and um, be able to hopefully land a job through that. Obviously, the OSCP, as you all probably know, doesn't teach you everything you have to know. I was able to land like an entry level pen tester job at um, the company that made the Zelle like money transfer app. So I worked for Zelle for a while. And I worked with them, moved up to like a more like senior level role, and now I'm working at TCM. So it's really cool to be able to be here. It's cool to be able to do like community stuff. I haven't done too much of it. I know Ange is like really good at being with the community, but I'm excited to present to you guys today. Hopefully, it's a little helpful to just kind of show you my whole process and how I go about things. Let me see if I can share my whole screen.
Yeah, and so Jason's going to be walking us doing basically like walking a web app. So, are you cool with people kind of asking questions as they go? I don't mind monitoring the chat and interrupting you, or do you want us to wait and hold off on questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Please interrupt me. I'd rather this not be like a me trying to like solve a CTF thing on my own. I'd rather like be more interactive and kind of just show you guys my thought process. I guess like the goal I had in mind was not to like show you guys how to pwn a bunch of stuff, but more to just show you like the mindset and like what I look for, certain things I pay attention to, and just kind of like what I think about like as I'm going through the web app.
No, I think that's like incredible. I think everyone's really down to see that. So that's perfect. I don't think any of us need to see you own this box. I think we're all kind of here just to watch you try to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good because I probably won't because it usually takes me a lot longer than I'll have now
Yeah.
to do the pwn stuff. We'll try to get some stuff, hopefully, though. Um, but I was just going to show, I don't know if you guys have used this before, Portswigger's Gin and Juice Shop. Um, I actually, like, I haven't really played around with this at all, so I was kind of excited to see what's on here. But basically, this is, I'm sure you guys have probably heard of Juice Shop. Back in the day, that was like the go-to for learning like web app pen testing, like the super fundamentals. It's basically like it was a GitHub project that you could pull down. You could run it locally, and then you could just it was a like a vulnerable web app with a whole bunch of like very basic known vulnerabilities. Um, since then, obviously, a lot of things have changed, and now Portswigger is probably like the biggest hitter in the scene when it comes to like web app testing. So they create like their own version of it that just kind of sits on the open web, which is nice. I don't have to pull anything down. Um, if you guys have done any Portswigger labs, you'll be pretty familiar with like the format here. But I just kind of figured this would be an easy thing to show. It's not too massive, so I can kind of just walk through this and see if we find anything together. Um, but I did want to just kind of show you guys. how I usually start out. Like if I'm starting like a new web app engagement at work. I don't know if did you guys cover like note taking and stuff like that?
We totally have. So I think everyone would love to see how you do that in real life too.
We had
Okay,
some
yeah,
really
let me.
handsome guy on here talking about note taking one day.
I heard he has a big beard, so yeah,
He for sure does.
super handsome.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize like how important the note-taking part is. It's easy to get like lost. It's like this app is pretty small, but like when you're working as like a consultant or whatever, like as a pen tester, you're going to be testing like massive apps. It's really important to be super organized so you don't like repeat work that you've already done. Um, and this is honestly an area I could really improve on too. Is just being more organized, making sure I document everything like right away. But let me pull up. I use Obsidian, which is like a really common app. I'm sure you guys probably heard of it. I like writing all my notes in Markdown. Um, just makes it really easy. I can just copy and paste stuff, screenshots, code blocks, and everything. Just makes it super easy. So let me open up Obsidian, just kind of show you how I usually just format stuff. So for like work, I have like a base folder where I have like each client that I work with, and then for each client I have like a folder, and then for each client, like within that tree, there's like each assessment I work on for them. So just kind of like a very straightforward, organized structure. Helps me keep track of like each client and like each assessment I've done. Plus, then I always have like my notes locally in case I want to reference any like attacks or exploits I've done in the past. Um, so this is just Obsidian. I'm pretty basic. I don't do any of like the fancy like plugin stuff or anything. I usually just create a file called notes, and then this is kind of like my scratch pad. Like literally as I'm going through the app, and if I see something interesting, like I'll document it here. And I just like mark everything with headers and try to organize everything. Uh, I'm going to show you guys probably like a better way to do that that I've kind of been thinking through lately that I might try. It might be kind of time consuming with like bigger apps, but I think it would be really helpful ultimately. So I always start out, I just set this up, I set my folder. Um, Before I start testing, um, always read like obviously like the ROE, the rules of engagement for the assessment. Um, and if you guys are going for the PWPP, right? Yeah, obviously it's in the title of this channel. Um, but yeah, so for that one, like I'm pretty sure I remember taking that. They give you like an ROE that you have to follow. It's like always read it a few times because the last thing you want to do, like in the real world, is go outside scope and mess with stuff that you shouldn't mess with, and that can lead to legal issues and all that stuff. So definitely avoid that. So I usually like make sure I review the ROE, make sure I'm going through everything, and know what I'm actually supposed to be testing. Like a lot of times they'll have like just a base domain in scope, like in this example, ginandjuice.shop. So I want to make sure like are there subdomains in scope? Like if there is like a demo ginandjuice shop, like is that also in scope? Should I be fuzzing subdomains? That's all stuff you want to find out before you start testing because you don't want to be guessing and running into things and testing things that you shouldn't. So that's like really, really important. I feel like that's not probably not covered enough. Um, but once I have like my scope and everything, I always like to kick off like a background like fuzzer scan. Um, so I just sort of like to run some like directory busting in the background. Um, so I just use Windows and I like using WSL, and this is where I run a lot of my tools like in the background. It's a lot nicer than having to like spin up like VMware and run a full like Kali instance. So like I always run like dir search. I found dir search really good for getting like the low hanging fruit. This looks for like really common files and stuff on the server. So I'll literally just use the default options and run that in the background. Wapalizer is also really nice. This is like I'm using Firefox, but this is also for like other browsers like Chrome and stuff. And this will, if it can detect it, it tries to basically detect the backend like frameworks and technologies that are being used on the web app. So if I see, like, I'll look here always, and if I see like PHP or like Microsoft, like .NET or whatever, like I'll know there's certain file extensions that I could be searching for. So like, let's say I see like PHP here, I would also start like a GoBuster scan. So I always just use like GoBuster, your URL, put the URL in. A few other options I use, like EpicX is a word list. And then I know X is file extensions, word list is TACW. I always just use like the user share, I think it's Raft. Also never try to memorize commands because it never works out. Pretty sure I have it in my history though.
Glad I'm not the only one still Googling like the simplest of commands sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single engagement, I'm like, how do you responder again?
Yeah, exactly. Just want to redact this URL so you guys don't see that. So yeah, so I usually use this Raft Medium directory. It's a really common known word list. I found that to find basically most of the stuff I needed to. And let's say I was testing like a PHP app, like you can search for specific extensions. So in this case, like you just add tag X and then whatever extension you want to search for. And I feel like that's a step that's missed a lot. Is like people don't look at the web technology and figure out what the backend is running. So like if this was like .NET or something, I could search for like ASPX files. So having like being familiar with the web technology is definitely helpful as well. So yeah, I'll run this stuff in the background. You can see I already found some stuff here, but I just let that run as I kind of start going through the app. But before I do that, let me show you guys Burp a little bit. I don't think Burp Pro isn't required for PWPP. At least it shouldn't be. Although I'm not sure. Do you know that of that, Ange? Like, do they say like
It's
they
not
should you should
required,
have
no.
Burp Pro? Okay.
He uses
That's good.
Fuff a lot for fuzzing in the course material to kind of skirt Burp Pro, and he does show using Turbo Intruder a little bit, but who wants to sit there and write a bunch of Python?
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Cool.
you should all use Zap. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, Burp Pro is definitely nice to have. It's not a requirement for sure. I can kind of, in case you guys do ever have Burp Pro or use it like at your job, there are like quite a few extensions I really like. Um, Active Scan Plus Plus is like a given. I always have that enabled. That just kind of makes your Active Scanner better and search for more things. JWT Editor is a no-brainer if you're working with JWTs. That's like the best extension to have. It lets you like view them, like modify them, allows you to run like certain attacks on them. So that one's awesome. Auth Analyzer. Oh, this one is like amazing. I have to show you. I'll show you guys this one. But this one basically allows me to test for access controls, which I probably use this one the most, honestly, at like in real life pen testing, just because a lot of apps will have like different user access levels. It's really annoying to like manually have to test each one, and this kind of automates that whole process, which is really nice. Request smuggler, that's always something good to look for. Definitely not like a requirement though. I haven't really seen that too often in the real world, but something you should always check for nowadays. Param miner, I don't know if does the course go over parameter pollution or anything? I don't think it does. Not too familiar with the
I
course itself.
don't. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but that's there's Portswigger labs on parameter pollution. Again, I haven't really seen that like in the real world too often, but it's definitely cool to know. View state editor, that was for like a specific engagement I was doing, so I wouldn't worry about that one. I don't like CSRF scanner. That one like blows up my issues, and it basically says everything is CSRF, so I wouldn't recommend that one. I don't remember what that one does, to be honest. And then software vulnerability scanner is kind of nice because I'll pick up like JavaScript dependencies that are like out of date, stuff like that. There's a whole bunch, and like really the main ones that I use are like ActiveScan++, and I really like this auth analyzer one.
We have a question about
Um,
how recursive you're getting in your subdirectory busting.
yeah, that's a good question. Typically, like if I find like right now I'm not doing any recursion. This is basically just a static list it goes through and checks for all these. Um, so I always run dir search first, then I always run GoBuster as well. If I find anything like really interesting, like let's say there was like a /admin or something here, I don't know, something that looks like juicy. I'll usually do like a recursive search on that, and see if there's anything I can't find through like the UI. That's kind of like up to your discretion and how verbose you want to get. I feel like a lot of the times when I'm kind of like towards the end of testing and there's not much left to find, I'll kind of see if there's directories that I missed or stuff like that, which I'll do more recursive stuff. It also doesn't hurt to just run that in the background. I don't like running. I don't like being too loud. I know it doesn't really matter, especially when you're working with like clients that you're testing. Um, that's why I also don't like running like a lot of like burp active scanner stuff because it can be really loud and potentially break stuff if it sends like a weird request. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a good answer for that question. I guess it's just kind of like what I get from the original fuzzing attempt. Like I'll basically just go off of that. Let's also run GoBuster because why not? I don't think this is going to find too much because this app isn't very big, but we'll see.
Password is I love working with Ange 2025. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Exclamation point.
Probably a question mark, to be honest.
You're telling me you have a keylogger on my machine right now?
Um, so how's the pin test here?
It's like you're at the bat. You already see I find admin, but you get a 403. So that's because we're unauthenticated right now. So that'd be interesting. Like this might be something I do a recursive search on right from the get-go because I could I could be unauthorized to view the root, but maybe I could view like a directory like deeper down the line. You never know. So that's something you could search for. All this stuff looks normal. Like this is all functionality I'm pretty sure I can access via just like using the application. But again, like this is stuff I'll come back to as I like become more familiar with the app. All right, so let's kind of start looking at the application itself. Um, so really like to start out, I just like becoming familiar with the app. It's I usually don't just like jump in and start testing stuff right away. Like I'll usually spend like the majority of my first day like on my engagement, just like understanding how the application works. And once you know how it works, that's really going to help with testing it because it's really hard to test stuff if you don't obviously if you don't know how it's working and like what stuff is doing on the back end. Um, so this is like all other Portswigger sites. They have like a products page. And part of my note-taking process that I want to start trying out is like going through each page. So like this is the root, and basically like documenting this in Obsidian. So like I'll put the root there, or I'll just put like slash for the root. Um, and then like seeing if there's anything on this page that would be like interesting to test. Like in this case, we have this form field. So like I would document this. Um, and see like I'll intercept this request and see like what it's making, and then I'll copy that to my Obsidian. So I think this would be really helpful. It can be really this could be really time consuming if you're working with a big app. But I think for like these smaller apps, this is like really helpful. So like basically what I'm looking for is anywhere I provide like user input is interesting to me. Obviously because you don't know, like this is getting passed through on the client side, which is what we're on right now. This will get passed onto the server side, go through code, and we don't know like where this is going through. We don't know if it's getting past the dangerous functions. We don't know like if this gets reflected back yet, like what this is doing. So like anywhere you can provide input is like really going to be useful. So it's interesting to get like a coupon. So like for now, I'm just going to document that and I'll come back to it later. But you see like you do get some reflection. You see the application like also reflects back, so we can test for stuff here like cross-site scripting, like template injection, like stuff like that is coming like to my mind right away just by seeing like what this is doing. So like right off the bat, that's stuff I'll look at is just places I can put input and manipulate it. You can also look at like low-hanging fruit stuff too, especially in Burp. You can look at like your cookies, which I know we're not logged in yet, so we don't have like a session yet. But these are like all unauthenticated cookies. You can look for like the quick wins here, which is these flags. We talk about these more later, but like HTTP only, that one's important because that means that if this is enabled, so if this is set to true, basically that means that we can't access the cookies via JavaScript. So if there was like a cross-site scripting somewhere else, I wouldn't be able to pull this cookie from the JavaScript itself. So that's good because it prevents like auth takeover attacks and stuff to happen over cross-site scripting. These ones are set to false, so like I would be able to extract these cookies via JavaScript. Secure means the cookie can only be sent over HTTPS, can't be sent over insecure connections. And same site has to do with the cookie being passed and requests. Like if a site makes a request to like ginandjuiceshop.com, is that cookie passed with the request or is it not? This would be like from all third-party sites. This one's a little confusing, but this one is really helpful for CSRF attacks, which I can talk about those a little bit too. But these are set to none, so that means that if I were to set up like a phishing page that executed JavaScript to make a request to Gin and Juice Shop, and someone that like currently had a session on Gin and Juice Shop visited my phishing site, basically my JavaScript would like make a request to Gin and Juice Shop, and their cookies would be included because they don't have any same site restrictions. So like third-party sites can send the cookies and requests to your sites, which is kind of confusing to explain, but I think visuals can be more helpful with that one. So we can kind of circle back to that if we find any CSRF stuff. But yeah, those are quick wins. You can also always run like burp crawler. So you can like crawl and do active scan, which in this case, let's do that. Let's just see what it finds. So we can do like crawl and audit, and this will basically go through like each page of the site and like go through each link, build out like a whole map. It will also look for like low-hanging fruit stuff and run like burp scanner on this. So let's just have this running in the background as we like manually review stuff. And I usually just keep all like the default options. This can take a really long time to run, so let's do balanced. It says it'll take a few hours, but I don't. This site's pretty small, so I don't think it should take that long. But I guess we'll just see. And I know you don't have like I don't think the free version of Burp comes with crawler and stuff, so that's obviously not required. But again, it's like a nice to have thing.
Zap does.
Boo, no Zap here. I haven't used Zap in like years, so I don't even know what it's like. But I'm sure it's just fine.
It's kind of ugly and clunky, but it's good if you don't have Burp Pro.
Yeah, there's also what's the new one? Kato? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I don't have time for learning all that.
Yeah, that one looks cool, but yeah, it does look like it's a lot to learn. I'd like to learn it someday though. I know I'm taking forever to get started testing here, but I like to just add my URL to my scope, my burp scope. This is helpful because then I'll stop like logging traffic that's not in scope, which is just keeps everything nice and organized. I also go to my proxy history and enable show only in scope items. So now I can only see requests to my in scope URL, which is nice because you get a lot of noise here from like Firefox. And if your site talks with a lot of third parties, that can also be very annoying because you'll get a lot of noise here. So this is helpful. It also ensures too that you're not like messing with stuff out of scope that you shouldn't be messing with. So then I just I'll start like going through the app and seeing how it works. So like this obviously is huge, like something I will obviously look at is this search field here. Like let's copy that down. Put that in Obsidian. And you see this gets passed to a URL parameter as well. Something to also note. So like that means that this is interesting because I can send someone a link with like this URL parameter. If they click on it, and I can get this input to do something bad, I can like phish a user to like do cross-site scripting or whatever this is vulnerable to, which is what we don't know yet. But that's something we'll also look at.
We have a question. Do you create a scope file and then import to burp? And then additionally, which browser do you prefer? Hack and Kraken, our lovely Hack and Kraken says, I see DOM Invader as a plus if using burp.
Yeah, so what was the first question?
Do you create a scope file and then import to burp?
Yeah. I usually don't. Scope files are usually, I mean, those are nice. I usually don't do that though. I probably should be like more organized with that kind of stuff, but the answer to that is typically no. But favorite browser, um, I used to just use the Burp built-in browser, which is Chromium, but I've had so many issues with it lately where it like won't render stuff and it is just like been such a pain in the neck. I just started using Firefox again. And Firefox works fine. So I don't know. I don't really have a preference as long as I can intercept my traffic and see the site, which Chromium failed to do. So Firefox, I guess.
Yeah, you know me, I've had the same kind of issues with Chromium. I swore it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been on and off for me. I remember I first started seeing the issues when I would test like anything Salesforce related for whatever reason, but then it started happening with like other sites too. So
We have a third one in the party. Hack and Kraken also says that Chromium has screwed me too many times. So we're we're all in agreement.
I just had to roll back. I upgraded to the newest Burp Pro, and I had to roll back because the browser would crash every time I would try to clear the history.
Yep. Yeah, and it's like at that point, it's like I'll just use another browser. Was there another question? There was all of them.
That was it.
Okay, cool.
He was kind of asking about DOM Invader, but
Oh yeah,
maybe
DOM
do you
Invader.
find that useful? I don't find it terribly useful because almost everything like script, like the angle brackets and stuff are filtered, so I don't get many hits with it on like actual production applications.
Yeah. Um, I should use DOM Invader more. I usually don't. It's not really part of my normal workflow. Like if I see burp like notify or flag like a DOM related vuln, I'll usually manually look at it, and you can kind of tell if they're false positives. If not, yeah, DOM Invader is good. It's also like kind of hard to use. So I remember I went through like all of Burp's or Portswigger's Academy like labs a few years ago when I was like first getting into web app stuff. And they teach you pretty well on how to use like DOM Invader. So I would definitely like if I were to use it right now, I have to like reference a lot of documentation, but I do think it's a good tool. But again, I haven't seen it in too many like real life, like real world applications per se. So let's look at this app more. I think I documented this. So yeah, so like I'm looking at, or this is catalog.
Who are already
I wrote scope. Copy all the requests. So this page also has a subscribed, so we'll look at that later. No results here. It looks like it's not reflecting back my input, but again, we'll come back to this. Accessories. So this is something I also kind of look at. So like if I click on these, it looks like it's adding a new URL parameter. So again, that's something I'll look at. And this really the mindset you want to have when you're looking at web apps is like, what is this doing on the server side? So like we're on the client side right now, but what you're really concerned about is, I mean, you're concerned about both states, but when I see stuff like this, and it's like filtering different products and stuff, like right away my head's going to like they're storing products in a database, obviously. Like if I go back, like these are products that they currently have. They're storing these in a database. Like obviously the database is defining like the product name, how much it costs, like how many stars it has. So like my thought process, like as I'm going through this, like as I search for a product, it's probably doing a database query where it's comparing the string and it's searching the product table for like whatever I input here. So like it's searching for products with that name, and that's going to be a database query. So right off the bat, like, okay, I'm going to test for SQL injection here and see if there's any way I can escape the query that they're inputting on the back end. Same thing with here, like they're filtering per like category. So each product has a category associated with it in the database table. So like here, they're filtering by accessory. So again, this is somewhere where I'll also like test for SQL injection. So like you do that right away just by like quick wins, like just add a quote and see what it does.
Gonna really think
Hopefully,
about that quote.
hopefully I didn't break it. Oh, see, like this is probably SQL injection just right off the bat. Internal server error, like that's something that probably shouldn't happen if I just put a quote in, if they would have like correct error handling in place. All right, so let's play around with this a little bit. I usually, instead of working out of the browser, I like to work usually just directly in Burp. I don't always recommend this because my repeater, I can get like a million tabs. And I don't have a good repeater workflow, but it's good to like mark your tabs. So if it's something that I know is going to be a finding on a report, I'll usually mark it with like a star, so I know that I can reference that later on, and I know it's like a finding. In this case, like I'm not sure exactly what this is yet, so I'll just put like potential SQLi. But it's good to keep your tabs nice and organized.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
How do you forgive yourself for not using burp in dark mode?
See, that's like we were actually talking about this the other week. I use like pretty most other stuff in dark mode for whatever reason. I always used burp in light mode, but it's also beneficial because for like when we're writing reports, we use like light mode in our reports basically. So all of our screenshots are supposed to be like light so they don't stick out too much. So like when we're taking screenshots to put in our pen test reports, we always switch to light mode. So it's beneficial in that way. But yeah, you're right. For whatever reason, I've just always used burp in light mode.
See, I'm allowed
I
to
guess
use dark mode for screenshots because it's all internal pen tests, and you can always tell my report from everyone else's.
So here we
We
get
have
the
a
internal server error. I think I saw a question pop up.
Yeah, when encountering internal server errors, what is your thought process?
Yeah, so like in
Also,
this case,
Hack and Kraken is complaining about light. So ignore him.
In this case, like what screams like I was just talking about how like I know that this is doing a database query, like just based off of what I think the application is doing, based on like all the other applications I've tested, which is why it also really helps to like have some developer experience because you can kind of infer and assume what how like developers design these things. But I assume that this is getting filtered like appended to a SQL or a database query. Um, and if I put like a quote in there, you see I get a server or 500 internal server error. So basically, my thought process there is like I'm breaking the SQL query and it's causing a SQL error, and then the application isn't handling that error correctly, so it's 500. It's giving me a 500 error back. Um, a lot of like you don't see this too often. Like a lot of modern applications will have like proper error handling in place, so you'll see like a 200 response no matter what, even if there is SQL injection. Like you could potentially see that. But like this here to me just kind of screams that there's some sort of issue going on with the SQL query.
Yeah, I think that's like for me learning this stuff. The biggest question mark is like, okay, I saw this and like my spidey senses are tingling, but like, how do I know it's an actual rabbit hole? Like, what's that? Which probably the answer is straight up practice, but I actually really like that question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, so like if I assume what they're doing on the back end, this is like what my best guess would be. Like I would think that this string right here is getting passed to like a query. Let's just say like select star from uh, products where category equals so like I don't know what they're doing in the back end, but this is like what my guess would be is they're just passing like whatever the user inputs here. They're passing into this category. So basically they're filtering which products belong to whatever category. And in this case, they're not, it seems like they're not filtering quote characters. So like me adding a quote here would be my input would look like that. And this is no longer a valid SQL command. So now this fails. And that could potentially be leading to this error. So something I could also try is like to see if I get like a valid response back. You could also do like add an or statement or one equals one, and then like comment out the rest of the query. So now this is a valid query because I have I close my quote correctly. I have an or statement, which this will always default to true, and then I'm commenting out the rest. So let's try this, and if this returns a 200, that gives me even like a better sense that this is SQL, like valid SQL injection. See? Oh, perfect. I actually like the demo gods are on my side today. I even got lucky too because this is probably my sequel. I like to use. Let me show you guys a little resource I like to use. I like to use just Portswigger SQL injection cheat sheet. This is helpful. It kind of gives you by database like the syntax and stuff. I usually just default to MySQL. That's like a pretty common one. So this could also, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is MySQL. But you can test out like commenting out is the syntax could be a little different. There's a bunch of different methods here that you can use to test SQL injection. This is like a very bare bones, and this is something that Burp Scanner should pick up, and it probably did. But I'll look at the Burp Scanner stuff. after. You see I'm getting like a whole ton of issues back, so it's probably catching a lot of things.
Another good one, if you're doing it from the browser, is if you get an error with the single quote, throw in another single quote and close out the syntax. And sometimes that can be a quick, like, yes or no.
Yep, you're totally right about that one. That one's even easier, so I would probably default to that. So now that I know that there's SQL injection here, we can just like throw this in SQL map. Makes our lives a lot easier. That's what I'll typically do in the real world. So let's do that.
Now you're speaking my language.
So I'll just paste this in. And in this case, since I know exactly where the SQL injection point is, I'll just add a star here, and that tells SQL map like where to look right away, which is nice. And I'll just run a tag guard. You provide your request, and we'll see what that does. We'll just let this run in the background. So that was a quick win. It's usually not like that in the real world, but so you never know. So it looks like we pretty much looked at like most of the capabilities for this page. So like we can also like view a product and see what that does. So like here we also have another parameter. So this is something I would also look at. Like what is this parameter doing? Can I manipulate that in any way? Again, like this is probably performing a SQL query, so I can look at that. Here we also have like a few other functionality which we can look at. So like check stock, see what this does. This is XML, so like right away I'm thinking XML injection. Which there probably is a XML injection here, so I'll forward this to my repeater and I'll just like mark that to come back to. This is just an add to cart function. So this is something that could also potentially be interesting. For now, we'll just forward this to repeater. This is also like could be an efficient way of going through these. It's like keeping track of everything in repeater. Again, for these smaller apps, that would be more helpful than like a bigger app because things can get out of control quickly. But then there's also a blog here, so let's look at that real quick. So it looks like it did discover the SQL injection, which is cool. Although it looks like it detected Boolean based blind right off the bat, which in this case, like if you guys are familiar with the different types of SQL injection, this is error based because like the application is throwing an error when we have incorrect SQL syntax. So basically we can tell if our SQL query was successful or not based on the error. So error based can be a lot quicker, whereas like blind, usually you have to set like a timer so that like you cause like the database to sleep, so you know whether or not a query was like valid or not. So blind injections can take a lot more time. So sometimes like SQL map isn't all that smart. It will just kind of go through basic checks, and once it finds one, it'll be like, oh, okay, let's roll with that one. You basically have to tell it to keep going, and if it finds like a more like a quicker injection like method, then it will go with that. But we're gonna just roll with this, and here it gives you the like the exact query and stuff, which is nice. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. Add something to my cart. Let's see what this is. I think I really slowed down the site. Let's see what the scanner's doing. And that's why I don't like running a lot of scanners, because they can bog things down. So let's pause that. There's also an add coupon thing, which is interesting. I think I put in the main chat. I remember asking if anyone was interested in seeing like particular vulnerability classes. So let me just pull that up real quick, because I think someone mentioned race conditions, so I could talk about that a little bit.
Definitely know someone brought up cross-site scripting.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we'll also talk about that. Let me just pull up the chat.
Yeah, OAuth and race conditions.
Okay. Yeah, I could talk about race conditions right now, because this is like kind of a common use case for that. OAuth, I would be super rusty on OAuth. I haven't done OAuth stuff in a really long time. But Portswigger has really good OAuth labs, so you should probably check those out. I should go through them too, because it's been a minute since I've messed with any of that stuff. When we pull up Paint, I can kind of give you a visual of like what a race condition is. But please excuse my non-artistic ability. But basically, so like, this is like our browser, let's say. Like this is what we interface with. Let's put B. And there's like the backend server, which is like the web server that's running. So we interface with the web server through the browser. And then there's also like the database layer. So this is where like the data is stored for the application, and the server, like the web server, has server-side code that will query the database to retrieve data back and reflect it back like in the browser. That's just like basically in a nutshell like how most websites work. So like database has several like rows with data in them. So when I'm thinking about race conditions, thinking about like sending multiple like requests at the same time that will basically like race to the same something in the application. In this case, let's say like a good example for this really is like we have a coupon here. And then, like, so we have like our cart, and let's assume like our cart is stored in a database, and like it has the price of our item and everything like in a table. And when you apply a coupon, like the table gets updated. So it will apply a discount. So now your cart gets updated and you have like a cheaper price here. A typical race condition would be like 2 requests are getting sent simultaneously to the database. So like before the row is updated, before your price gets reduced, both requests make it there at the same time. So the application thinks that you didn't already apply a coupon. So like the coupon could potentially get applied twice because you have 2 requests reaching the same record at the same time. And there's no way for those requests to know that the coupon has already been applied because they're both getting there at the same time. So what that basically causes is the same logic happening twice. Whereas like if one request were to be sent, the database, like the record gets updated and it marks that you've already used a coupon. So then when you try to reapply that coupon, it will error out because the database is showing that the coupon has already been applied. It's kind of like a weird thing to explain, but basically just try to think of like 2 people accessing like a cookie jar at the same time, and like they both think they're going to get the cookie. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but uh, so this is actually like pretty easy to test with burp. So I think we got a coupon before when we subscribed. Let me pull up that request real quick. So we should have a coupon we can apply. Yeah, here we go.
Great reason to use burp in your real life. You want that coupon? Just put it through a burp request, and then if you forget to copy it, it's right there for you.
Yeah, so like how I would test this is I intercept the request. So the coupon isn't replied or applied to my account yet. So I've intercepted it. I'll send it to my repeater. And James Kettle from Portswigger came out with really cool research um, on this stuff. I think it was like 1 or 2 years ago at DEF CON. And he actually released a bunch of burp features to make race condition testing like a lot easier. So like I'll repeat this tab. So now I have two tabs with the same request in them. And then you do add to tab group. So you can create like groups of tabs and import in the burp suite, which is nice. I just call this like race condition test. So now these are both in a tab, and you get this drop down to your send function, and you have different options on how you want to send your request. So you can send the request in sequence, which will send like one request and then the other request after it in a single connection. You can do the same thing, but with separate connections. But this is the one we're interested in, send group in parallel. So what this does is it sends both these requests at the exact same time in the same connection. So the server's receiving these two requests nearly like milliseconds apart, like pretty much right at the same time. And that's what we're interested in when we're testing race conditions, because we're going to see if we can apply this coupon twice and basically bypass if they have a control in place to like limit the amount of coupons that you place. So let's just see if this does anything. Might not. So coupon applied. Coupon applied. So it looks like it was applied twice, but I guess we'll find out when we refresh. Site's super slow right now. Let's see if this, well, that request said invalid CSRF token. That makes sense because we already sent these requests. But it looks like both these went through, but sometimes applications will just say that and it won't actually apply it. So we'll find out whenever this loads. But that's basically race conditions like in a nutshell. Another like cool one to test is like if the application has a like a password reset functionality. If like the reset link is generated with like insecure functions, so like if you get like a password reset link that is supposed to be like a random like path, a lot of the times like you'll see developers will like code, they'll use like time, so like the time that the reset request was entered, they'll use that to determine like what the unique value is of the reset path. So sometimes if you test like a race condition on a password reset function, you can like discover reset tokens for other users if they're basing that based if they're like determining that value based off time. So it's like another that's like another cool thing to test. I haven't seen that too often in the real world, but another thing. So I think it only applied at once, so it's very possible that that like just didn't work and that this isn't vulnerable. But that's just kind of how race conditions work in a nutshell. Um, I'm not sure if that's like what Alex kind of talks about in his course. I'm not too familiar with like what he goes over, but that's like how Portswigger teaches you how to do them. I know you can also use Turbo Intruder to test that, so that could be an option if you don't have Burp Pro. I don't know if you need Burp Pro actually to use this, but that'd be good to know to like use this send group in parallel feature. Um, so yeah, I know I kind of went against what I was saying. I started testing before I went through the full app, but let's go through the rest of this app and see if we find anything. Let's see also what SQL Map's doing. Oh, I forgot we stopped it. Let's try to dump and see if we get any data back. And also, how long do you guys usually go on this stream?
We, I mean, honestly, we typically go for anywhere from like 20, 30 minutes, but since you're rocking this along, I'm gonna watch until you're done, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
want to
like,
I don't want to keep you guys too long if you have stuff to do. So yeah, just feel free to drop or anything.
yeah, no, I mean, feel free to go until you're just like, okay, cool, I'm done with this now, because we're recording it, so people, I know there's people that either got up really early or they're staying up really late to watch this, and they might hop off, but people are prepared to watch it.
Okay, cool.
Hack and Kraken suggests trying 3 or 4 parallel requests in the coupon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Usually, for race conditions, you'll have to. I'll usually just like do a crap ton, or I'll usually do like at least 10. You do have to be careful with this though, because you can sometimes break stuff if you're causing like too much load on the application. But yeah, I'll usually go. So yeah, let's try that and see what that does. But yeah, sometimes like the race condition, it's very finicky because it's all based off of time. So if like a request gets there like just like a little tiny bit too late, it won't work. So the more requests you send in parallel, basically, the better chance you have that like both of them will make it at the same time. Man, this app is struggling.
Did you break
Let's look
it?
at our scanner real quick, see if this found anything cool. I love to see red. So there's cross-site scripting, DOM-based here. We also have a reflected. Let's look at this quick and we can talk through that. Let's see what this request is made off of. So this was off that search term. So remember before where we could search for like a product by name? I think it was this page. Yeah, so it should be here. Let's see if we can, without looking at the request, let's see if we can like figure this out. And sometimes Burp Scanner will, it's pretty hit or miss. Sometimes it'll give you basically like the exact output that you need to trigger the vulnerability. Sometimes it'll get you like partially there. Here, since this app is made by Portswigger, their stuff is usually tailored to like fire off on their exact like scanner payloads and stuff. So like if you guys ever do the burp exam, like my methodology for that exam was literally to just the second I got access to the apps, just throw active scanner at them because that would pick up most of the stuff just because it was made by Portswigger. It's not really what I do in the real world, but that wasn't like the most realistic exam either. So for the TCM exam, I don't even think like active scanner will probably help you, at least from what I remember. I don't think it will pick up a lot of the stuff. Um, so you're definitely not at a disadvantage if you don't have a Burp Pro, I don't think.
Schwarzenegger's
Jason, you got
network has its days too. Like sometimes all the labs are just like slow and it's not you.
Yeah. and who knows how many people are on this right now. I don't. It says it's built for vulnerability scanners. So I think the purpose of this app is people to like test out their scanners. So who knows at any given point how many people are scanning this.
You've got a couple questions. Hack and Kraken wants to know if you use a mind map to keep yourself on track with certain attack threads.
Is mind map like a is are you referring to just like generic terminology, like, or is that like an
Yeah.
actual application?
No, it looks like general terminology.
Yeah, I know that's one thing I want to be better at. Like Obsidian, I keep everything in Obsidian, um, and I kind of just mentally, I feel like I just remember like what I was doing. Like I feel like if someone would look at my notes, they probably have no idea what it means, but for whatever reason, it makes sense to me. Um, but no, I would say like mainly no. I don't really map out things. Sometimes I write stuff down. I think like whiteboarding would also help me out a lot, but it's really all personal style. I note that's like how note taking really is. It's like whatever works for you. Is the Burp Suite certified practitioner cert worth it? Um, for me, I would say it was worth it mainly because it forced me to go through every port swigger lab, and I think that's really beneficial for anyone getting into like AppSec. I think that's like where you should start out. Mainly because it's free and like the content is really good. It's probably like my opinion, like one of the best like web like teaching resources out there.
I can say
And
from
like
experience, AppSec managers look at it like similar to the OSCP for a resume, for sure.
yeah, it's a really hard exam. It took me multiple tries to pass it. Um, it's pretty cheap though. I think it's still, I don't know how much it is these days, but when I took it, it was only like $100. So I know that's by no means like cheap, but it's cheaper than a lot of other exams out there.
Somebody asked if it was good to complete before the PWPP exam, and I would say no, it's definitely harder. But what would you say?
Yeah, so to kind of give you perspective, before I took, well, the PWPP was part of like my interview process for TCM. So like I had to take it as part of the interview. So I didn't take the course. So I didn't really don't really have any familiarity with Alex's course that goes over like the API testing and everything needed. Um, but I did take like I did all the ports figure labs. Um, I did the OSWA, which is like OffSec's web like entry level one. I did OSWE, which isn't really related because that one's like all white box testing. It's kind of like a different mindset. And I'm trying to think. I think those are all the like the web certs I took, and I also just had like job experience doing web applications, so I didn't really like need the training per se, like Alex's training. I'm sure it's like amazing, and I'm sure there's probably stuff in there that I don't know. But like in order to pass it, like I had enough knowledge to pass the exam, so I don't know. I honestly can't really answer that, but I think like if you did all of Port Speakers Labs, like that's a great start. And I'm sure you'll be able to find a lot of stuff on the exam.
The only caveat people are saying it's $99. The only thing with that is you have to have Burp Pro with it because you have to submit a project file with it.
Yeah, and I think some of the attacks you're gonna want Burp Pro for, especially the scanner. A big part of that exam I feel like is using the Burp scanner, because that will just make your life easier in picking up the vulnerabilities. Like it'll pick up the base payload, but you're gonna have to like it'll pick up cross-site scripting with like alert one, but you for the exam you have to build a payload to like steal like to phish a admin user to like steal their cookie. So you have to build out the JavaScript, which can be tricky because I remember the exam has a lot of like filtering. It will filter out like certain JavaScript characters. So you really do have to like know how to like build the exploit, which I thought was helpful because it gives you a different perspective on like when you're doing a pen test, you'll do like alert one and kind of be done with it. But it's cool to see like the exploit path and prove impact because a lot of times in pen testing, clients will be more interested if you're able to prove impact rather than just like show like an alert box, from my experience. So it's always nice if you can to prove impact.
I can say, sitting internal on the conversations with TCM as we were interviewing for your role and as you were coming on board and stuff like that, whatever you did to learn and whatever you've done to kind of put together your skill set was just really highly like impactful, because from Heath to Aaron, everyone that kind of had a look at you early on was like, oh, this guy's incredibly legit. I think you even said that you had rushed the reporting for the PWPP when you took it. And it was like one of the better reports that we had seen in general. So just to give everyone kind of context to that, I think is an interesting piece of this. Like it's really worthwhile to just kind of do things as you do things, in my opinion, because you're probably one of like the better web app people that I've come across. So just toot your horn a little bit here live on stream.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
I still feel like there's like, especially with the web apps I've been doing recently at work, I feel like sometimes they make you feel like you're dumb and you don't know what you're doing, but it's okay to not have like always find crazy stuff, which is what you have to come to terms with really in this field, is not finding insane stuff in every assessment because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I was
Um,
sold when I saw the espresso at the top of your LinkedIn profile. I didn't need to know anything else at that point, but you know.
I like for the port circle labs, I know it's like super taunting because there's like a million of them. Um, but like when I was going through these, I would do like two or three a night or something like that, and that keeps it like a yearly goal. I don't know how long it would take. I don't know how many labs there are now. I know they've added a whole bunch. But like basically just breaking it down, like doing a few at a time, but doing that over a long period of time is like really helpful. And I think that's really beneficial for these labs in particular. Because I do think it's beneficial. I don't think went through the expert ones. But all the apprentice and practitioner, like I definitely highly recommend going through. And if you don't have Burp Pro, like try to go through the ones that don't require Burp Pro, which I don't think most of them. I think most of them you can do without Burp Pro. And
I've
I
only
also
ran
like their
across a few
content.
that absolutely have to have Burp Pro. A lot of times they give you the exploit server to work with, and you can kind of like change the exploit a little bit to make it work with the
Yeah,
exploit server.
the exploit server is cool.
Yeah.
I wish that was like an app that they released to like the public that you could use. I could see that not being a good idea. Their content's also very like really good. I would read all the written content before I did the labs. It's not like super in depth, but it gives you like a good starting point. So I think like this and to supplement Alex's training is probably like an amazing starting point. And I'm sure you'll do just fine on the exam, especially like I would assume you only need the like Alex's content to do the exam because that's how like TCM is big on like providing courses and using like if you take the course, you're ready to take the exam. So that's how it should be. But if you want to learn more, I'd like Portsfigure definitely does not hurt. I can tell you that. And my whole laptop. Let me unplug real quick. See if that helps. Do you guys have like exams scheduled yet, or
Nah,
do you have like a
we
plan?
pretty loose around here. I'm not pressuring myself to take it anytime soon. I'll probably pass it right now, but uh, I think Anne's just planning on taking it shortly after
Yeah.
we finish up.
Yeah, I would like.
Also,
Yeah, I would like to take it within the month if I can. I feel a little behind, so I could see myself pushing that out just a little bit. But to be honest, I think I might at least attempt the first attempt on the sooner side. Just kind of like, why not, right?
Do you think TCM would let us do it like a pen test team?
I wish. Wish. Probably not. You would give me all the answers anyway.
I'd try.
The video on my side is really wonky. Is that just me?
Looks okay to me.
Okay. Yeah, I bet it's just me.
I do wear really thick glasses though, so
Can you guys still hear me okay? I think I am
yeah.
having some. Yeah, okay, cool.
Is he AFK? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was restarting something.
Okay.
We talk about how Portswigger you always have to log in as user Wiener.
That's so weird. Can we talk about also how the demo gods decided to get over an hour in before just like smoting the absolute shit out of Jason?
Yeah.
You
It
guys hear me?
happens.
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Yeah. All right. That was awful.
Dad?
Did you hear any of my like crazy audio?
No.
No.
My AirPods were like screeching in my ears.
Ooh,
I like unplugged my displays and it just freaked out. So I don't know why.
is Portswigger
Um,
hacking you back? What happened?
Probably. I forget. Let me look at the chat real quick. I think I remember. Oh, we can walk through that. We're gonna go over the cross-site scripting,
We
right?
were talking about Wieners and Peters while you were gone.
Yeah.
Oh, even better. Can you guys still see my screen or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be frozen in time.
All right, let me reshare. Just rocking the single screen right now.
I only have 4.
All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
So I think our cross-site scripting was in like the search term here. So like when I'm testing for cross-site scripting, I'll just like do test 1, 2, 3, and then I'll search the response to see where that is getting outputted in the like HTML. So here it shows up a few places, it looks like. So these are like links, it looks like, that it's generating on the page. And this is interesting because it's actually placing my string into JavaScript already. So like I'm already in a script tag. So like, usually when you're testing cross-site scripting, you'll do like the script alert one stuff. And that will get generated on the page itself. But it looks like I'm already ending up in a script. So like, let's see if we can escape the string here. So if I just like add a quote here, Let's see what that does. So it looks like it's escaping my quote. So that adds that backslash. Um, so right off the bat, like what I'm thinking here is if it's escaping my quote, is it also escaping backslashes? Because if it's not escaping backslashes, I could do something there. So let's try putting like a backslash in and see what that does. Okay, so yeah, so that's interesting. So this is where you can do the injection. So you see how it's not escaping, it's just raw, like putting the input in my backslash. So basically, if I put in two backslashes here, this will be interpreted as like a literal. Um, so like the JavaScript is interpreting this as a literal backslash. So it's not escaping that end quote there. Um, so since we know that the quote automatically gets a backslash added to the front, you could add like a single quote, single quote here, and put a backslash in front of it. So now this is going to be double escaped. So if we send that, um, so now we have this is being interpreted as a backslash because there's two backslashes. And then we have that single quote, which is ending this string. So basically we just escaped this string. So if I add like input after this backslash, that should end up outside of the string there. Yeah, which is exactly what's happening. Um, so since we're already in a script tag, we can just do like an alert one. Um, I think you can just like probably be able to comment out the rest of it. Let's try that. And then there we were able to insert JavaScript. Um, that's not really one you'll typically see in the real world. I feel like that's like kind of CTF-y. Typically in the real world, I always use H1 tags just because like when the HTML renders and it'll be like really large text. So if you do like H1, like something like that. Um, Basically anywhere that this appears on the in the front end code, you'll see it like really big. So that tells me like if like let's say I can change my first name of my application profile, um, and that gets passed. That's like appears in multiple places in the application. This makes it kind of obvious where there's like an injection point because it'll be like super big, and then I can tweak it and try like other cross-site scripting payloads as well. Uh, Portswigger also has like a really helpful cross-site scripting cheat sheet that I use a lot, so I definitely recommend using that. And their labs kind of walk through if you end up getting like filtered, if you end up like if there's certain tags that don't work, if there's certain like events like JavaScript events that won't fire, you can basically copy. They have like a list of each one, and you can run those through Intruder to see which ones like aren't filtered. So there's certain ways for testing, but cross-site scripting is kind of um, it's really based on like what the application. A lot of applications will have some sort of filtering, so you're gonna most likely have to use like a tag or something that you haven't used before. It's kind of rare that well, actually it's not. It's more common than it should be, but usually script won't work, but um I know Ange and I have found from experience that it often does, unfortunately. But if it's like any like modern application, like typically like Java like script tags will be filtered out, so you'll have to do some sort of fuzzing.
The Portswigger cross-site scripting labs are very hard.
Yeah, I don't remember too much. I should honestly probably go through this again. They probably help me out because I haven't done those in a while. I don't think I've ever tried an expert one, but There's a link to the cheat sheet. But yeah, I think, like, are there any other questions or anything that anyone else wants to see? I know we didn't get through like a whole lot of the app, but like to keep in mind, like usually an application will be scoped out for like 3 days to a week. So um, like it takes time to go through like all the functionality. Like we didn't even get to the unauthenticated user or the authenticated user. So that's like a whole nother point of testing is like, well, you want to retest like the different user roles, like can an unauthenticated user do stuff that only an authenticated user can do? Are there different user roles that should like can access data that they shouldn't be able to? So like I test a lot for broken access control. It's like a lot of the findings all I typically find. And I think I'm pretty sure that's like OWASP, like number one of the top 10 is broken access control. So like I see that a lot. And yeah, we can do like another session sometime if you guys want to see more like attacks and more of my methodology. I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I think that was great. I think
Yep.
people will, people who aren't familiar with testing an app will, feel more comfortable with how they go about it now.
Yeah, I think especially watching this is how I kind of plan my attack out. I'm doing this. I'm being very methodical. I'm being consistent with like this is notes. This is this. This is that. That was great. I know that there's people in the chat that are saying, yeah, people would love to see more. So if you want to come back on, we would love to have you, dude.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I feel like I want to do more community stuff. So I'd love to hop on whenever. Just let me know.
Yeah. We are, Beef and I, just for everyone to know on the side, we were kind of talking about changing servers. So we need to chat about that with, there's another server out there that we think we could take this to that potentially would maybe like be a little bit more of a larger space. So, that might be what's going on, but for sure. Thank you so much. We have another question. Fulcanelli wants to know if you have tried anything with API Sec University.
I haven't. I've heard really good things about that though. I was actually like planning on doing that training a few years ago, but I never got around to it. But yeah, I've heard really good things, and I know there's like a book, the API hacking book, that's also supposed to be really good. I had a coworker in my last job that went through all that, and he said I've heard really good things about it. So um, I'm sure it's really good. I just haven't had the time or chance to go through it yet. And it's free, so that's also I'm pretty sure it's free. All the training at least. I'm not sure though on that.
Beautiful. Any other questions before we wrap up? Now's the time.
Yeah, if there's I have a good one. So if there's anything that you would do differently from the very start, is there anything like that you've got that you've kind of thought about after the fact now that you're in it, in terms of either studying or focusing on specific like platforms to teach yourself this stuff?
Um, I don't know if I would do my teaching different. I feel like well, I would probably do some stuff differently. I would go like super hard on my training. Like when I was studying for OSCP, I would work like a full 8 hour day. Then like my whole life, like after work, I would be studying for like 3 hours and then go to bed. So, which I'm, I don't know, I kind of have mixed feelings on that. Like I am a firm believer that you really do have to work really hard to get into like this industry. But also like you have to take care of yourself. So I recommend like I know I think Alex talks about it a lot, but like the having like short study bursts, like an hour or two a day, but doing that over a longer period of time, I think is definitely more beneficial. And I definitely have burnt out more times than I should have just because I would go really hard at training and really hard at work, and it's really easy to burn out, especially in this field. So I would definitely recommend that. Um, Another thing I wish I did more was just like more community stuff. I feel like I was just kind of like a solo. Um, I know it's really common, but I'm definitely more an introvert, which is pretty common in this industry. So like I wasn't really super into like getting involved with the community and stuff, but I definitely see the value in that now and like how important it is. So which you guys are obviously already doing because you're here right now. So just keep that up. I think that's like the number one way you can get jobs is just by knowing people.
I concur.
Yeah, I posted about that today. Yeah. It also just really, I mean, Beef and I would have never met unless we were doing stuff like this. And now I'll call Beef up, like I called him yesterday because I was like, or the day before because I was just like not in a good headspace and was like, I just need to chat with him and just like, have a talk. And that type of relationship, like, that you can build that type of thing in doing stuff like this. So, and I know he's got a chat with like a couple of his friends and that all were trying to break into cyber at the same time, and it's been really useful for them. So I actually can't support that enough too.
Yeah, this is
Um,
awesome. I wish I did more stuff like this when I was starting out.
yeah. Do you have any advice for someone trying to transition from general IT to security?
Um, I think I like it's hard for me to speak on that because I just kind of well, my first internship was like network engineering, but my degree was in cyber, so I always had like the focus of getting into cyber. I didn't really start out at like a help desk or stuff like that. Um, but I know a lot of people talk about like just like said in chat, like people volunteer for tasks at work. Um, like you can do security related stuff without being in a security role. And most companies have a security team. So like if you're already in an IT position at a certain company, like company A, get to know the security team and like pick their brains, show interest. Because I know in my last job there was like a lot of mentorship opportunities for people that wanted to like be on our team and wanted to like get into security. And most companies are like all about that. They don't want you to leave and go work somewhere else in security. They'd rather have you like grow into the role. Um, so like whenever there's an opening, usually internal hires are like first priority. So um, I think that's a really great way to break into, especially if you're already working in IT.
Yeah, I would say, especially if you're like at an organization that has Active Directory, just go through I mean, you can find most of that PEH course for free on YouTube. Go through the PEH section and just like try a couple of those things, maybe aside from IPv6 attacks um, in the network, and just like see what you can find. There's some really good auditing tools and stuff like that out there that you can find. We use one called Ping Castle that has a free version. And just like, just sort of be curious if you're allowed to within whatever, literally within whatever environment you're allowed to touch right now. So get permission and then just kind of take a go at it. Yeah, Ping Castle is really good. Brad Thornton at TCM, he's developing an AD tool that like Jason and I got to take a look at it. It looks really good. Like this guy knows AD in and out. I'm really excited to see that. Did you use Ping Castle on the PNP? That's awesome. Um, so that's anything that you can get your hands on that's like automated is going to give you a bunch of findings at the same time. I think you can't go wrong, especially if it's free. That is hilarious. I loved that you used Ping Castle on the PNPT. My advice to pivoting into cyber from general IT would be to take just any job that you can get. Like the first job that someone's like, yeah, we'll hire you into that, take it. Anything looks good on a resume um, in cyber. So my first role was in incident response and forensics. And although I wouldn't go back there very willingly, it was still a really great experience, and it definitely helped me really understand kind of the fundamentals. I think incident response is like the retail role of the cyber community. Like everyone should do 6 months in it. But I hope that helps because, just take any job you can, really.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
People are
No, thank
definitely
you on
like way too picky.
no
Yeah.
thank you on incident response.
Yeah. Are you already nice to wait staff and other serving people? Yes, maybe you don't need to do incident response. But if you've never done any type of customer service before, incident response couldn't hurt because it's therapy. You're a therapist. You're a customer service agent. Will people cry with you on the phone? Maybe.
My retail jobs are help out the most with that kind of customer service stuff, I feel like. I feel like if I didn't work retail, I wouldn't be able to, or I would have had a lot of issues early on in my career of like dealing with people.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, Jason, thank you so much. I think it's probably good to call it so that we don't tire you out too much. But when you are ready to come back on, please let us know.
She
And of
said you
course,
gotta
we've
go to
got.
bed.
You gotta go to bed.
It's past your bedtime, young man.
Past your bedtime. Get out of here. We've got 2 more weeks of this study group, so I know that upcoming we've got kind of some interviewing of somebody who has passed the PWPP. And then what's the other one, Beef?
I think I'm doing reporting next week. Am I doing reporting next week?
Reporting sounds right. So we're really going to go in depth over some reporting.
Yeah. It'll be deep.
So those are the next 2. Oh yeah, because you're going to show us your like scaled back version of web app reporting.
I'm going to show you a slick report to help you pass this exam and not stress yourself out.
That's the title of the YouTube video.
Because you're not getting hired by TCM security. They're going to be like, oh my God, this person's report was so amazing. We're going to hire them on this. That's probably not going to happen. Could it happen? Maybe. Is it probably going to happen? Probably not. So I'm going to teach you how to do a nice report that will pass this exam, not make you hate doing reports.
Love it. Love it.
I hope I didn't kill anybody's dreams right there, thinking they were going to get hired, but maybe it could happen. I don't know.
Good. I mean, it did not get me hired at TCM. Cool. All right. Well, I wish there was like a way to emote and do like, clapping and stuff like that. But again, thanks, Jason. You are the best.
Well,
Yes.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, feel free to reach out if I can help with anything.
Yeah. And you might get a bunch of LinkedIn requests because I shared your LinkedIn account. So good luck.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
All right, everyone. Have a great morning, noon, or night, wherever you are. We'll talk to y'all next week. Oh, quick question. Can you use ChatGPT in doing the PWPP report? Of course you can.
Oh, yeah.
You can use ChatGPT on anything TCM. Good luck on it for sure, because some of that stuff is like, and try not to put anything personal in it that's like exam details, but yeah, just don't do it in the real world.
I've never found a remediation recommendation the GPT can't write.
Yeah. Right. Cool. All right. Bye, everyone.
Later.
See you guys.